Tonight we have to speak about, I think, which is the most important topic right now, which is Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah. And Rosh Hashanah is a scary day. It's a very scary day.
Yep.
Why is it so scary? It's scary because Hashem is taking a really serious look at us. A really serious look. And is going to look at everything we did this past year and examine it under a microscope, only the type that Hashem can have. If we can imagine a microscope that we can create that can see every particle, Hashem's microscope goes into every action that we did, every thought, every speech, every word.
Wow.
And that's a scary thought, because I don't know about the rest of you, but I don't think that I've lived up to the task of who I am, or I'm supposed to be, as a Jew and perhaps as an individual.
I'm with you.
You're with me. So
Yes.
it's a very scary day. In fact, that's what the Torah calls it, Yom Hadin,
Yep.
the day of judgment. So with that in mind, I want to ask you a few questions and see if we can get a deeper understanding of what Rosh Hashanah is all about. Question number one is this. If it's such a scary day that it says that the fish tremble when God goes to his throne on Rosh Hashanah to judge the world, it says the animals shake. The animals, they tremble. The charadah. The angels tremble. The whole world shakes. And we should be shaking. So how can we make a celebration out of it? How can we turn it into a Yom Tov?
Sameach.
We have a meal, we're misameach, we get dressed nicely, we get haircuts before. So how come it's a simcha? I mean, imagine you're going to a court, and in the court you're going to come out probably guilty. Do you make a whole meal and celebration about going to court?
Nope.
I would be terrified to go. I wouldn't make a celebration out of it. So why do we make a celebration out of judgment? It doesn't seem to make any sense. That's question number one. Let me put the questions out, then we'll see we'll put it all together. But think about that question. We make a celebration out of being judged. We have meals, we dip apples in honey, we wish each other good yontiv, right? We're supposed to have good foods and wear nice clothing and set our tables beautifully like Shabbat. So how can that be? That's question number one. Question number two is, what day of the year does Rosh Hashanah fall? Is Rosh Hashanah, think with me, is Rosh Hashanah or did he wait for the first day of the new semester?
Last one.
I think any professor would give it when? Last day of the old semester. If a professor gave you and on the first day of the new semester, you'd probably think something's wrong with that. Right? Somebody said to me once, well, professor gave you a test the first day, but then asked what the test was. It was a diagnostic to see how much you didn't know from the past year. So when do we give tests? We give final exams the last day of the old year. What day does Rosh Hashanah fall? Rosh Hashanah is the test. It's the examination. Is it the last day of the old year or the first day of the new year? So logically, what's your name? Frida's saying logically, it should be the last day of the old year. That would make sense. When is Rosh Hashanah? First day of the new year. Hashem is giving us the test, the examination, on the first day of the new year, not on the last day of the old year. Is that strange? What type of teacher would do that? Imagine you're teaching a class and you say, first day of the class, okay, I'm giving you a test on the material that you covered last year. What is Hashem doing? Giving us a test, the examination, the first day of the new year? Give it the last day of the old year. Question number two. Question number three. When does the judgment take place on Rosh Hashanah? Does anybody know when it takes place? When does your neshama and my neshama, when does it pass before God on Rosh Hashanah? What time? What point of the day? Do we know the answer?
Evening. Nightfall.
Well, actually, it's the Zohar tells us that our neshamas are judged when we're fulfilling the mitzvah of shofar. When you're hearing the shofar being blown, that's when you are being judged. Now, think what judgment means. Judgment means for everything. Hashem's going to look at you as a Jew. Did you live your life correctly as a Jew? Kashrut, Shabbat, Tefillin, Tzitzit, Lashon Hara. Then Hashem's going to look at you, Moshe, and he's going to say, I created you with a unique neshama. I created you with as a person that there's no one else like you from the beginning of time, and there will be no one else like you until the end of time. Maybe that's a good thing. It might be a good thing. But there's no one like you. There's no one like me. There's no one like you. So that means we have each have had to have done something special with our lives. Have we done something special with our lives? Have we served God in only the way we can serve Him? Have we made the world different in only the way we can make it different? So that's the second part of the judgment. Now here's my question to everybody. The question's like this. The point of that judgment is when we're listening to the shofar. When you're hearing the shofar, those first 30 voices, 30 kolos, 30 sounds, that's when your souls are being judged. Now, how come it says we're supposed to get up early and run to hear the shofar? You know what we're doing? It's like, imagine, you have to go to traffic court where you know you're going to have hundreds of dollars of fines to pay. Do you get up early and run to the traffic court to pay your fines?
Yeah.
Or do you walk slowly, hope the judge won't show up, maybe they'll postpone the date? But in Rosh Hashanah, we know we're coming for Hashem. We know we're going to be judged. We know that we're probably not going to stand up to what we should be. And the Torah tells us, get what? Run to the court. Run to be judged. Run to hear the shofar being blown. And you know what God says? God says, if you run to hear the shofar being blown, I'll sweeten the judgment for you. I'll make it a sweet year. And the Imam Tiket Adin, it's called. Sweeten the judgment. Question, what are we doing? How could we be running to have ourselves judged? Are we crazy? Are we masochists? Like, what's happening? We're rushing to come before a court where we know that we're not going to be able to withstand the judgment? Like, what's happening? Why do we do such a thing? Yeah.
It's probably persuasion.
What do you mean?
Nice to someone to ask them politely if they can decrease the sentence, remove it. Sometimes they'll actually.
I was in court last week.
I hear what you say. Okay, in some level you think, at some level you say, what's your name? Arthur says something very interesting. On some level it might be that we are appeasing Hashem by coming early. Good thought. We'll think about it. I think you're on the right track.
As you said, if they run to it, you'll give them a good year.
He does. The question is why. So here we go. Now let's just see if we can take this topic and think with me. Think this through with me. I think you'll get a deep insight. Why did Hashem choose the first day of Tishrei as Rosh Hashanah, the day of judgment?
Rosh Hashanah?
Why this day? What happened in human history on the first day of the month of Tishrei? What happened? The first day of Tishrei was the sixth day of creation, and the sixth day of creation God created Adam. Adam Arishon, the first man. Question, how long was Adam in the Garden of Eden for? How long was he there for?
200 years.
200 years. Other suggestions? How long was he in the Garden of Eden for?
4 hours.
What did you say, Bella? 4 hours, good suggestion.
1 year.
Getting closer. Well, no, getting further away. Getting colder.
Whoa, so is it in the years or is it in an hour?
Think in days. Think in hours.
7 days.
Close. He was in the Garden of Eden 6 hours.
What?
6 hours. The Gemara in Rosh Hashanah tells us, on the 6th hour of the day, God thought to create Adam. 7th hour of the day, he molded the dirt. 8th hour of the day, he blew the neshama into him. 9th hour of the day, he commanded him to eat of every tree, but don't eat from one tree, the tree of the Eitz Hadas. 10th hour of the day, he sinned, he ate. 11th hour of the day, he was judged by God. 12th hour of the day, he and Chava were expelled, kicked out of the garden.
If we would have never eaten it, would we be here right now?
It would be a different world.
Mashiach would come that day.
It would have been a different world.
So because of that stupid mistake, we're now suffering.
We're going to suffer, right? Well, we'll see what it means. 6 hours. 6 hours. That's all it was. Now, listen to what our rabbis say. Our rabbis say that when Adam was expelled from the garden, the language that the rabbis use is hu yotza b'dimus. He left b'dimus. Moshe, translate from me b'dimus.
B'dimus meaning that, like up in the head.
No, better translation. Like dimos means like with. He left the garden sort of with like a good sentence.
With good sense of humor that he knows he has a mission to make that mission and
right. You know, I think in Hebrew they use that word in modern Hebrew. It means like with a good retirement package.
Yeah.
With a good plan. He went. He left with bedimos like a good. You know, when you leave a company, they send you off with what they call the golden parachute. You know, you get a retirement package and you get money and you get a pension and
And your resume also, like, you know.
He left the Garden of Eden, it says, bedimos, with a good plan, a good deal. a good pension, a good
He didn't
sentence.
just kick him out for no reason. He kicked him out with a book and with a Torah.
So let's think this through for a second, everybody.
Directions.
Was the expulsion from the Garden of Eden something good or something really bad?
Bad.
Very bad.
Well, let's analyze it for a moment. Give me some descriptions of what life was like in the Garden of Eden.
Yes.
What's a description of the Garden of Eden?
You wear no clothes.
One description was there was no need for clothing, right? Because
clothes.
we were able to see the truth about a human being. True. The neshama was present. There was no need. There was no shame. Good.
Animals.
No shame. What's no Arthur? Go ahead, another.
So easy.
It was easy. Why was it easy?
Because there was no real test in life.
There wasn't girls. There wasn't.
Okay, making a good point. The Yetzer Hara was outside of who we are. What else exists in the Garden of Eden? God, you could what? Bill?
Hashem himself.
God could.
Yourself, like you just.
You could talk to God. God wasn't hidden. God was open. You could speak with Hashem. Imagine that.
Still now, no?
Hi Hashem.
Well, God's hidden now. What's another characteristic of the Garden of Eden?
But there was no Sefer Torah there. There was no Torah. There was no rules.
True, but just give me descriptions of what there was. What was there? What existed? Well, I'll tell you also, you know what exists in the Garden of Eden? You didn't have to work for a living.
Really?
It says in the Garden of Eden, no taxes. There was no taxes and no death.
What?
No, and you didn't. In fact, I'll prove it to you. It says that one description of the tree of the Eitz Hadas, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, different descriptions of what it was. One description says that it actually was a fig tree. Another opinion says that it was a grape tree. Another opinion says that it was an etrog. Another opinion says it was a bread tree. In the Garden of Eden, bread actually grew from trees. Bread grew from trees.
Bread.
They had all sorts of different types of trees in the Garden of Eden. For example, if you wanted to get a tandoori, you go to the tandoori tree, and take tandoori. If you want to get lipioshka, if you want to get a bagel, you go to the bagel tree, right? The bagel tree. If you want to get a good whole wheat, challah, you go to the whole wheat challah tree. And if you wanted to get one of those, what are those called? Those umbrella breads you buy. What are they called again?
Toki.
No, that's it, toki. If you wanted to get nantoki, there was a special nantoki tree, but it was a problem. You know why? Because when the nantoki tree, when the thing became ripe, it would fall, and God had to make a special angel there to catch it. That's a Bukharian medrash. It's a famous Bukharian medrash. But the reality is that the bread actually grew from trees, and that symbolized the fact that there was no need to work. The reason that all of you are in college and graduate school and working very hard is basically to buy food. I mean, that's what we need. Without food daily, we cannot make it. In the Garden of Eden, you just went to a tree and you could pull off your bread. That's an amazing thing. It's an amazing thing. You know why it's an amazing thing? Because bread is the most complex food that we have. Does everybody know how many steps there are in the bread making process?
3 steps.
There are actually 10.
Listen, my uncle has a Pioshka store. 3 steps.
In that process.
How can she take something from the tree if it's not her tree? It's like gezet.
No, Shem said, the first commandment that's a good question. The first commandment that God gave to Adam and even the garden was Echol Tochel Mikol Eitzegan. You're obligated to enjoy this whole garden. It's all yours. Enjoy it. Eat it.
But?
Rejoice in it. But one tree, the tree the Eitz Hadas Tov, don't eat from it. But everything else, eat and enjoy. Right?
Maybe, what makes it, maybe it was just a regular tree. Let's say it had a regular apple. Maybe the point of the whole story was to listen to the rule. He just disobeyed it.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily have to be a special tree. Maybe it was just a regular tree, and the guy just wanted to test him since there were no other rules to see if he would listen to this one thing he had to do.
Okay. Right, you're talking about the story in general. Right. The story in general, there was one command, one test. Had he passed that test, the world would have been a different place. Adam and Eve would have gone into what's called, would have gone into the next world, pure and perfect, and history would have come to an end. We wouldn't need plan B. We're in the second stage of history because of the failure.
So wait.
100%. But let's go slow. Let's go slow, everybody. So what I'm trying to say is like this, that one of the characteristics of the Garden of Eden was you did not need to work for a living. And bread grew from a tree. That's what it says. After we were expelled from the garden, Hashem gave us one of the consequences was by the sweat of your brow will you have to bring forth bread from the earth. Now, if you think about it, listen to this is how complex bread is. Bread is such a complex food that our rabbis say there are 10 steps in making bread. And if God had not taught Adam the recipe after he was expelled from the garden, Adam would not have figured out how to make it. Apparently the human mind can only think maybe 5, 6, 7 steps beyond what it can see. To think 10 steps out, imagine, Adam would have to know that in order to produce bread, you have to plow, you have to place a seed inside, you have to let the seed grow, you have to cut the stalk down, you have to thresh the stalk, you have to winnow the stalk, you have to separate out the kernel from the husk, you then have to grind it, you then have to add water and knead it, and then finally you have to bake it. There are 10 steps in the bread making process. It's very complex. That's why when you make a blessing over bread, you're supposed to place your 10 fingers and place them on the bread. And that's why you all know that in the blessing that we make on bread, how many words are in the blessing? Baruch, Atah,
10.
Hashem, Elokeinu, Melech, Haolam, Hamotzi, Lechem, Min Haaretz. There are 10 words in the bracha to remind us of the 10 steps in making bread. So in the garden, interesting, in the Garden of Eden, you didn't have to go through that work. It was all there for you. No work. Question, what else existed in the Garden of Eden that did not exist outside the Garden of Eden? In the Garden of Eden,
Money.
well, there was no need for money because everything you have was prepared. What else exists in the Garden of Eden? Let's see, let's examine. God was there. You could speak to God. You didn't have to work for a living. Bread grew on trees. There was no death.
Yetzer hara.
There was no death. In the Garden of Eden, the plan was to live forever. When they were expelled from the garden, that's where death came into the world. God introduced death. For women, one of the consequences of being expelled was tsar beleda, difficulty in childbirth. Wasn't supposed to be like that. That was a consequence of having sinned in the garden. The fact that Eve introduced the idea, apparently. Now, what else existed in the Garden of Eden? I'll tell you something very fascinating. In the Garden of Eden,
No violence?
the reason there was no violence is because the Yetzer Hara, I think somebody mentioned this before, the Yetzer Hara, what is the Yetzer Hara? The Yetzer Hara is a spiritual force that exists, and its job is to make us feel like we're equal to Hashem. That we're creators. Yetzer means to create. I'm a creator. I can do it. My power, my strength. And it's that force that exists inside ourselves that always distracts us from serving Hashem. In fact, right now I'm saying words of Torah to everybody. And if something else is going inside your mind right now, like, what am I going to eat when I get home? I have to have a big exam tomorrow. I forgot to do this. Or, whatever's going inside your minds right now, that's distracting you from hearing the Torah. That's the Yetzer Hara. There's a distraction. That's its job. It's a spiritual force, and its job is to give us challenge. In the Garden of Eden, that spiritual force was not inside the brain of Adam. It existed outside of Adam. Now, that means the choices that a person could make in the Garden of Eden were choices between good and better. Good and better. Once the Yetzer Hara was inside of Adam, now the choice is between good and bad. In the Garden of Eden, you could not do bad because you could see clearly. You weren't distracted by that spiritual force called the Yetzer Hara. It was on the outside.
So if it's like that, how come he came? If it's like that, how come he came to...
Good. So let's analyze it. Let's think with me. Now I'm going to tell you something very interesting. We all know that Adam and Eve sinned. And they were expelled from the garden. And you know what our rabbis say? The expulsion from the garden was a good package. It was a good deal. They got a good deal. For Adam and Eve, it was a good deal. But let me think about it. A good deal, it looks like a terrible deal. They went from eternal life to death. They went from, you don't have to work for a living, to you have to get your bread by the toil, by the toil, the sweat of your brow. They went from painlessness in childbirth to difficulty in childbirth. They went from, you could see God, to God being hidden. They went from the Yetzer Hara being the outside, the Yetzer Hara being in my brain, to such a point where I get confused all the time, and I can't make correct decisions when I want to make correct decisions, and when I want to do what's right. So how could the expulsion from the garden possibly be a good package, be a good thing? It doesn't make any sense. Does it make any sense to you? But our rabbis say, no, it was a beautiful, just, sweet retirement package for Adam and Eve. A great deal. I don't hear a great deal here. Do you?
No.
No.
Let me explain something to you. I want to teach you something that you might not have heard before. You know, there are many reasons why Adam and Eve sinned. And they're all true, and they're all describing a different aspect, angle of the sin. But I'm going to explain an angle that the Arizat Sal, one of the greatest Kabbalists of the last 500 years, writes, the Ari. He gives a very unique reason for why they sinned. I'm going to explain it to you. To do it, I want to give you a metaphor. Is there anybody here who is the son or the daughter of a billionaire? Jacob.
Yeah.
You can relate to this. If anyone here is the son or the daughter of a billionaire, you have a very difficult challenge in life. You know why? Because if you ever want to go into business, people are never going to think that your success was due to you. Okay. What are people always going to say?
Papa, Mama.
Yeah, the reason you succeeded was because your father invested $100 million and you failed 10 times to finally got it right, and then you might have turned it into $500 million, but who couldn't do that if you had $100 million of seed capital? So, let me ask you a question. If you are the son or the daughter of a billionaire, and you want to show the world that you are a good business person, what do you have to do?
Become like Bill Gates.
Let's say Bill Gates' child. You know, Bill Gates is worth, what, 30 billion? What, yeah.
51.
51, he was.
51,
Still.
then he went back up again.
Okay, stock went up then. But what does the son or the daughter of Bill Gates or any billionaire have to do to prove to the world that he or she is a really good businessman? Garth, what?
No, I have a question. So what you're saying, when you're saying this metaphor, are you thinking about the children and the grandchildren? Because the answer to your question is they would have to start from nothing.
Right, you're like Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett doesn't believe in inherited wealth, right? He's only giving his kids a few million. He's not giving billions.
Yeah, but what you're saying is it just seems selfish. They're
What?
only thinking about themselves. They're not thinking about future generations.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, it might be good for them. I mean, for in their time. I mean, there wasn't that much difficulties. I mean, right now, look where we're surrounded.
Okay.
I mean, by the hardship and toil. I don't think they had that kind of difficulties back then.
Well, let's just think with me in the metaphor, everybody. If you want to be, just think with me. If you're the son of a billionaire and you want to show that you really are a good businessman, what do you have to say to your father?
Papa, I don't need you.
That's exactly right. You have to turn to your father and have to say, Dad, I don't want any of your money. I don't want your credit cards. I don't want access to your bank account.
I want your bracha.
All I want is your bracha. I want your blessing. And I'm going to go out and I'm going to do it myself.
You just tell him, can you lend me some money and I'll pay you back later, what?
I guess you could. Now, how much are you going to ask him for?
Just some millions of dollars, I don't know.
So everyone will say, Dad gave you the money. If you want to show that you're somebody, what you have to do is you have to do it yourself. Now I'm going to tell you something that I think might be true, and this is the Ari says. Adam was the son of a billionaire.
Who Adam?
Adam Arishon.
Really?
Yeah,
He was the son of a billionaire. Hashem.
Oh.
a link.
Adam loved Hashem very much.
So,
He had such gratitude to Hashem. Imagine you're created by God. Such gratitude. He's so aware of all the goodness that God gave him in life. So aware of it. He is aware of how much God loves him by creating him and gives him the opportunity to have a test and thereby to earn where he's going to be forever and give him the greatest reward he could ever have. He realizes God's love in creating this universe is all for him and for the human and for us. And he's such gratitude. And he so badly wants to show God, God, I love you so much. I love you. But there's one problem. You know what Adam is thinking? Adam is thinking, God, it's too easy to show you I love you. You know why it's too easy? Because I can see you. And it's too easy to do what you want me to do. And you know why it's too easy for me to do what you want me to do? For me to do what you want me to do? It's too easy because my Yetzer Hara is not on the inside. My Yetzer Hara is something on the outside. It could talk to me. The snake apparently was the Yetzer Hara. It could talk to me. It could try to influence my mind. But it's not inside my head, thereby causing that internal struggle that you and I have. Like getting up in the morning, right? And you say to yourself, should I come to go to pray? I'll go back to sleep. What's that fight? That's your Yetzer Hara talking to you. All right, you see a something to eat. Oh, it's not so kosher, but I'm so hungry. That doesn't really matter. That's the Yetzer Hara, right? You know, are you walking down the street and you see something, you shouldn't be looking at it, and that's the Yetzer Hara. You know?
So why did they have to dress like that?
Or you say, you know, I should really sit down and learn a little bit of Torah right now. But I don't want to miss, I don't want to miss Seinfeld, whatever's on over there. Like, that's the Yetzer Hara. That's because the Yetzer Hara is inside your brains. Do you hear what I'm saying? In the Garden of Eden, the Yetzer Hara was outside of Adam's brain.
Oh, it's so hard to control Yetzer Hara.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. You're so true. So listen to me. Listen carefully. Adam had an idea. Listen to his idea. Adam said, God, Hashem, I love you so much. And I want to show you how much I love you. But as long as that Yetzer Hara is outside of my brain, it's too easy to love you. Because there's no fight. Of course I'm going to do what's right and good. Because I don't have that internal struggle and challenge like you have, and I have, and you have, and I have, we all have together. So you know what Adam said? Adam said, this is what it says in the Zohar. Adam said, I'm going to eat of the tree. I'm going to eat of that eitz, that fruit. And he knew that by eating of that fruit, he is going to bring the Yetzer Hara inside himself. He knew that. That's what it says.
What was the snake?
The snake was part of the convincing. That was part of its job. But Adam also felt that he wants to do it. The language of the Zohar is, it was a chet, l'shem shemayim. It was a sin for the sake of God. He said to God, he said to himself, I want to drop a level. I want to have that challenge of having my Yetzer Hara in my brain, and to show you, Hashem, that I can love you, even though it's going to be more difficult. That's what he wanted to do. He was like a billionaire's child who said, Dad, I don't want your money. I want to show that I can make the money on my own. He said to Hashem, he said to himself, Hashem, I love you so much. And he said, I'm going to do it on my own. I'm going to bring that Yetzer Hara inside of me. I'm going to show you how much I love you. But as long as the Yetzer Hara is on the outside, it's too easy to love you, God, because there's no challenge. Of course I'm going to do what's right. So you know what he did? He went to the tree and the snake persuaded him, and there's all part of it. I'm just giving you one angle of it. But in his own mind, that's what was driving him, according to the Zohar. And he said, I'm going to eat it. I'm going to drop a level to show at this lower level of having this inner fight. I can still love you so deeply, God. It was a chet l'shem shemayim. Now, how did God react? Now, if I were Hashem, you know what I would have done? I would have said to Adam, Adam, that was so beautiful. I would have given him a hug. And I would have kissed him on the forehead. And I said to him, Adam, that was so beautiful of you. You ate for me. You ate because you wanted to show me how much you loved me. That's what I would have said. And I would have rewarded him, and I would have said, oh, you're such a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful person. What did Hashem say to Adam Arishon after he ate? What did you do? You know what Hashem said?
Why you eat?
He said to him, listen to what he said. Listen carefully to the language. The Gemara in Sanhedrin says, Adam, minato. Adam, you are someone who doesn't believe in me. You lack faith. You lack emunah. That's what God said back.
In what language?
Lashon HaKodesh.
Hebrew, right?
In Hebrew, of course he said it. He said, Adam Arishon minato. You lack faith. Now let me ask you a question. Does that make any sense that Adam lacked faith? Why did he sin? Did he sin because he didn't believe in God? Or did he sin because he wanted to show that he could love God even deeper? Why did he sin? He wanted to show that he could love God deeper. So what does it mean that he lacked faith? Does that make any sense to you? What does it mean that he lacked faith? What does that mean? Let me ask you a question.
Simple, he didn't believe in God's plan.
What does faith mean? Let me ask you a question. Belief in God. Is belief in God, do you need faith to believe in God?
Yes.
Of course.
Or do you need knowledge to believe in God?
Faith.
Both.
Let's take a vote. Who says that belief in God is based on knowledge? Who says based on faith? Who says based on both? Does everyone believe their mother is their mother?
Yes.
Is that based on knowledge or faith?
Knowledge.
Knowledge? How do you know?
DNA.
How do you know?
Birth,
How can you prove it? Okay, you do DNA, fingerprints. Who else would be, who else would be taking care of you all these years except mom? Who would put up with you?
Dude, I have a video in my house of the video.
You have a video. Maybe they switched the baby in the hospital. You've heard of those cases where they switch babies in the hospital?
What the fuck are you gonna say that for?
Don't ever use a language. Don't ever do that again. Do good out. Okay. Don't ever use a language. That's a big language.
Why you gonna scare me like that?
Because you're asking right now between
Right.
a biological mother and a
What's that?
adopted mother.
But you believe that your mother's your mother because you claim that you have knowledge of it, right? Knowledge means that you have enough information to make a logical decision. True?
Yes.
To believe in God, do you require knowledge or faith?
Okay.
I'm going to suggest something to you. I think belief in God is knowledge. I think it's knowledge. I'll prove to you. You know, has anyone been to the zoo recently?
The what?
The zoo. You go to the zoo? Anyone to the zoo? What's your favorite animal in the zoo?
Well,
The what?
gorilla.
The wolf. Gorillas. Lions. Anyone like the giraffes? I like the giraffes. Beautiful, beautiful animals. Let me ask you a question. What challenge does a giraffe have in life?
Not being killed.
He was balloon.
Well, one thing is very tall, right? It's probably difficult to get a date with short giraffe. But you're right. It's the giraffe has certain challenges. You know what one challenge the giraffe has? How does it pump blood all the way up to its brain? How does the blood get up there?
Heart.
The heart. Question, what's the job of the heart? The heart's a pump. How does the heart pump blood 4.5 feet uphill against gravity to reach the brain? How does it do it?
Same way of playing flies.
How does it do it?
Energy.
You need a very strong pump to do that. But you know, if the heart is too strong a pump, the animal could be very high blood pressure. So a heart has to be a very regulated pump. But you know what the giraffe happens to have? It has another heart right at the base of its neck, right over here. This heart pumps normally and the blood flows around the body until the blood gets to the base of the neck and goes from the base of the neck up to the brain. Two hearts. Which came first? The 5-foot neck or the second heart? Which came first? Well, if you'll tell me the second heart was there before the neck, I'd ask you, what's the purpose? What's that heart doing there? So you'll tell me, well, the neck came first. Well, if the neck came first without the second heart, you'll have a generation of dead brain, giraffes. So I think logical minds have to say that the neck and the pump came at the exact same time. Now, that's one simple example of a system where two things have to work in harmony. If we examine creation and we examine a cell, what do we see? We don't just see two things working in harmony. We see thousands, if not millions, of pieces working in harmony. Would a logical mind say that came by accident? Or would a logical mind say there must have been a creator? I think a logical mind would say there's a creator. It doesn't prove there's God, by the way. It's called a proof from exclusion. All it proves is there must be a designer. You could say, well, maybe it wasn't God. Maybe it was aliens who created it. Like Crick, who discovered DNA, claimed. But of course, I'd have to ask Dr. Crick and say, wait a minute, but who created those aliens? So why not posit God? So that's one way we know that God is there. That's knowledge. You know what the second way we know God was there? God introduced himself to the entire Jewish people. 3,320 years ago, there was an event on the mountain of Sinai where God came down, and your grandparents were there, and my grandparents were there, and there were 4 million people there. And you know what God said? He said, Shalom Aleichem. I am Hashem, the Lord your God. And you know what the people there did? They died. Hashem revived them. He said, there should be no other gods beside me. You know what everyone did there? They did the most appropriate thing they could possibly do in such a situation. They dropped dead. And of course, because when God opens up and reveals himself, the neshama just wants to burst forth. The neshama can't be contained within this body composed mainly of water. Right? So it burst forth and connected to God. That's called death. Separation of the neshama from the body is called death. But then God revived. So God introduced himself to the entire Jewish people. And your grandparents taught it to their children. They taught it to their children. And of course, it's all based on the fact that we believe that our parents wouldn't lie to us and all this sort of thing. But God does not want belief in him based on faith. He wants us to believe in him based on knowledge. Use your minds to realize there has to be a designer, and study what the Torah tells us, which is God revealed himself to 4 million Jews. Now, that's an amazing thing. God says, don't make belief in me based on faith. Belief in me is based on fact. So, question. But faith is a big part of Judaism. So where does faith, amunah, fit into all this? So I'll tell you what the Brisker Rav says. He says something very beautiful. He says, where reason ends, faith begins. Where reason ends, faith begins. Where I can't understand, that's when I have to have faith. In other words, God, I know you're all about love. I know you know everything. I know you're all powerful. I know that everything you do is a manifestation of the perfect good. So explain the Holocaust to me.
The Jews changed the Torah. They changed like this is our Jews.
Okay, you could give a reason if you want, but the reality is, I could turn back to God and say, "Listen, Hashem, I really don't understand. Why is that necessary?" I mean, I give lectures on it also. I say exactly what you say. But at the end of the day, is I have to have emunah. I don't understand, and sometimes in life we're challenged to do things that we don't understand the reason. Like Abraham. Abraham was challenged. Bring up your son, the son you love, the son who's going to be the builder of the Jewish people, Yitzchak, and kill him. That's called the Akedat Yitzchak.
So it's good if you don't know them.
What was the test? The test was not that God existed or didn't exist. He saw God. God spoke to him. But the test was, God, I have to do what you want even when it makes no sense to me. That's called faith. That's called emunah. And that's a challenge. That's the test of life. Is emunah. Emunah means when I don't understand, I have to let my heart go beyond my brain. You know, and that's why I believe by when we say Shema Yisrael, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. You know what we do with our hands? We cover our eyes. Because we're saying to Hashem, in places in life where I can't understand you, where I'm in the dark, I'm going to let my heart love you and understand. Where I can't see, I'm going to have to let my faith take over. That's trust. And I'll tell you something. In any type of love, if you really love somebody, you know what you love about the other person? What you love about the other person is what you don't understand about the other person. You know, if I were to love my wife for what I understand, I'm not really loving my wife. I'm loving my conception of my wife, my mind's vision. Where my love for my wife begins is exactly at the point where I don't understand her at all. I don't understand why organic carrots are any better than regular carrots. I don't know why we have to spend more money on organic tomatoes. I don't see like organic chicken tasting any better. I really don't. But my wife does. Do I understand my wife on that? I don't. Love means you love what you don't understand. God says to us, you know, when you really have trust, that's when you really love me. So I have to create a world where you're going to need trust. But trust means that you have to recognize that my plan is greater than your plan. And you're not always going to understand my plan, but your test in life is to follow my plan. God turns to Adam. He says, Adam, you lacked trust. It's not you didn't believe, you didn't know that I exist. Of course you knew I existed. I just created you. But Adam, you lacked trust. Why? I commanded you not to eat of the tree, didn't I?
Oh, so he commanded not to eat.
And Adam said, but I have a better plan. I want to show you I love you. But the only way I can really show you I love you is if I bring the Yetzer Hara on the inside. And the only way I could bring the Yetzer on the inside was that I have to eat from the Eitz Hadas, from the tree, from the fruit. And God turns to Adam and says, look, Adam, but what did I command you to do? Oh, you commanded me not to eat. Isn't that the command, Adam? I told you not to eat. That was your test. But Adam says, but I had a better plan to show that I love you. God says, Adam, you failed the test. Your test was to subordinate your brilliance to my brilliance.
What about you?
It made no sense to you. That was your test. To do and follow even though you didn't understand it. That's emunah. You should have trusted me.
So is he in heaven or?
Oh, let's think about it for a second. Good question. Adam failed the test of trust. And not only did he fail the test of trust, there he is standing in the Garden of Eden with his Yetzer Hara now in his brain. Let me explain to you what the Yetzer Hara is. The Yetzer Hara is exactly what it sounds. Yetzer in Hebrew means to create. Ra in Hebrew doesn't mean bad. It means to disconnect. It's a drive that Hashem creates, a creative drive that can cause me to disconnect from God. What's that creative drive? it's the creative drive, is that I feel that I'm a creator. I'm the creator. I feel all my creative needs. My need to eat, my need to have children, my need to build, my need for glory, my need for honor. All my needs and creative drives, that's my Yitzhahara. And when that's in my brain, I feel that I'm the center of the universe, not God. And the reason Adam brought that on the inside was he didn't trust. By not trusting Hashem, basically, he was feeling, I don't have to trust Hashem, my plan is better. I feel that I'm the most important. I have an equal say with God. And here he's left standing in the Garden of Eden. And he turns to God and he says, Hashem, I've just destroyed myself. What am I going to do? And here I am in the Garden of Eden, where I'm going to live forever, with this Yetzirah inside me, and I'm confused now, and I know what's right, and I know what's wrong. What am I going to do, Hashem? I destroyed myself, I ruined myself. So you know what Hashem says? He says, Adam, relax. I'm going to help you. So he calls over the angels. I don't know if this is exactly how it went. But he says, Gabriel, Raphael, come here. Get a stretcher. Get Adam on a stretcher. Adam's on a stretcher. They put an IV in him. Gabriel, Raphael, get him out of the garden. Quick. Adam says, why are you kicking me out of the garden? And you know what Hashem says? Because as long as you're in the garden, you can see me. And if you want to fix up inside yourself, trust. You're going to have to be in a world now where you don't see me. Because when you can't see me, you're going to have to trust that I'm there. And when you can't see me, you're going to have to trust that what I'm telling you is correct, even though you can't see me. So Adam says, okay, get me out of the garden. And then he gets him out of the garden, and God says, guess what, Adam? You're going to have to work for a living. Adam said, what do you mean work for a living? That's terrible. God says, no, it's good. Because you're going to have to put a seed in the ground, and you have to trust that the seed is going to grow, and you have to just trust that there's going to be rain, and you have to trust that there's not going to be any insects that will destroy it. And you have to work on trusting that I'm going to help you. And you have to trust that which you can't see. You're not going to know if the bread's going to come up, if the stalk's going to be there. You're going to have to trust that I'm going to help you. You have to build the muscle of trust again. And Adam says, okay. And then God says to him, and one more thing, Adam. You're going to have to die. Die? What do you mean die? God says, listen, Adam, I want to tell you something. And let's ask you a question. What's the most important moment of our lives? Death. Well, I would say it's one moment. Birth is one important moment. Death is an extremely important moment. What's the most important moment in relation to death? You know what it is? The moment before death. The moment before death is probably the most important moment of our lives. And my friends, you're all young, but we're all going to experience it.
Well, how we know we're going to die? You know?
Mir Hashem Mashiach will come before, B'ezrat Hashem. But that moment before one dies, you know what happens at that moment? At that moment, a person has to turn to Hashem and say, I am not in control. You are the creator. You are the source of life. It's all you, and I have to trust you because I have no control. I thought I could rely on my children. I thought I could rely on my wealth. I thought I could rely on my health. I thought I could rely on my property. I thought I could rely on my job. I thought on my community, my friends. There's no one left. Hashem, I can only trust and rely on you. That's what death brings. So God turns to Adam and he says, Adam, I'm going to have to bring death into your life. I'm going to give you a long life. You're going to live 910 years. He was supposed to live 1,000. He was 930. He gave 70 to David, King David. You live 930 years, but you're going to die. Because that moment just before death, you're going to realize that you have to trust me. So think with me for a moment. When God expelled Adam from the garden, on the one hand, it looked like a really harsh sentence. He went from eternal life to death. He went from picking your bread off a tree to working for a living. He went from God being concealed to God being hidden. He went from the Yetzirah being on the outside to the Yetzirah on the inside. And oh my gosh, it looks terrible. But let me ask you a question. These consequences of his eating, why did God bring these consequences? Was it to punish Adam? Or was it to help fix him up? To fix him up. If his fault was he lacked trust, he had to be in a world of God hiddenness. He had to be in a world where you have to work to find God. We have to work to find a living. We have to work to trust God. Your bread's going to come up. We're going to have to give it all back to God before you die and say, it's not me, it's you. If the fault and the problem was a lack of trust, the cure was to be in this world which we are in right now. Because this is a world where we have to work on trusting God even though we can't see Him. We have to build that muscle of trust and faith. So here's my question. Was the expulsion from the garden a punishment or the perfect repair for the problem?
Punishment.
Punishment or repair?
Repair.
Yeah.
I think it was repair.
It was the ultimate punishment. He didn't get to see God. That was the ultimate punishment.
But if the problem was a lack of trust, the only way God could fix it up was to put him in a place where he has to work to discover God. Because if God's open and visible, it's like when you have a lot of light, you don't have to work hard to see. But when there's darkness, you have to really work hard to find something. And when you find that thing, it becomes so much part of you because you work to find it. If I have to trust you, God, and work on the muscle of trust which I destroyed, God has to say, I can only do that for you in a world where I'm going to hide. So therefore, what do we see? We see that the judgment that Adam received in the Garden of Eden, it wasn't a punishment at all. I'm going to tell you a secret about life, everybody. Everything that God brings to us in this world is never punishment. It's always for the purpose of helping us repair what our individual problems are. Now, God says like this. He says, just like Adam was judged on the first day of the month of Tishrei, and the sentence that he received was so good, and was the perfect fixing up for his problem. This is the day that I choose to judge my children. Why? Because the purpose of the judgment is not to punish. The purpose of the judgment is to see what you and I need so God can give us the perfect fixing up. For example, God might have looked at our record this past year and said, look, you didn't know how to use money. I gave you money, but what did you spend it on? You spent it on fancy this and a new car and a new that. This year you're going to have to lose $10,000. Yeah. Or God might say, listen, I gave you so much health this past year, you didn't appreciate it. Maybe this year you got to get the swine flu. I don't know. You know what? You got to appreciate your health. So what God is doing is looking at the past year to determine exactly what we need to correct ourselves for the upcoming year. Or God might say, hey, listen, I see you came to learn a lot of Torah this past year. You really made a lot of effort. I'm going to help you learn more Torah. Or I saw you gave a lot of charity. I'm going to give you more money so you get more charity. I'm going to look at the good also. Do you hear how it works? Now, it says...
So he doesn't judge what you said the last year.
So listen. Now, that's exactly what happens this. The reason God looks at the past year is because the purpose isn't to punish or to give a consequence for the past year. The purpose is to look at the past year to determine that which we need for the future year. To teach us that the purpose of the judgment is to fix us up. And that's why God puts Rosh Hashanah where? First day of the new year. If he put it on the last of the old year, it would look like he's just giving us a consequence. But if he puts it on the first day of the new year, God is saying, I'm looking at the last year because I love you. I love you so much. I want to give you exactly what you need to help you grow. See how it works? That's why we make a celebration of the day. The reason we make a celebration of the day is because we realize the reason God is judging us is because he wants to give us exactly what we need to help perfect ourselves. That's a celebration. He loves us so much that he's willing to take the time to determine exactly what you need and exactly what I need so that we can become the perfect human beings that he created us to be. If you're a good teacher, you care about every child in your class. And if a child falls asleep in your class, you know what you do? You wake them up. Because you really want each child to get exactly what he can get. I was once teaching in yeshiva. Remember I had a boy in the class. Every day he came to the class, he put his parka over his head and he fell asleep. And I always tried to wake him up. I couldn't wake him up. I always tried to wake him. There's potential, wake up. One day he woke up. He was such a disaster in the class. I said to him, go back to sleep. Gave him his parka, but Hashem doesn't do that to us. Hashem says, I'm going to look what you did in the past because I want to give you exactly what you need for the future. So we celebrate this day. He loves me so much that he's willing to look at my past to determine exactly what I need to be the perfect human being that he created me to be. That's why it's a celebration. We celebrate the judgment. We make a party about it. It's Yom Adin. But it's a party, it's a celebration. Now here, let's answer the final question. Why do we run to be judged? We get up early Rosh Hashanah, and we know that when the shofar is blown, that's when judgment takes place. But we rush to hear the shofar. We're rushing to be judged. And God says, you come to me early in the morning, and you want to be judged? I'll sweeten the judgment. I'll make it sweet. So I'll tell you how it works. It works like this. You know, this is just a metaphor. One time, my daughter, well, it's not a true story. Take my daughter Shoshana. Let's say she's 7 years old. One day I get a call from the teacher, and the teacher says, Rabbi Kraft, I need to talk to you. I said, what's the matter? It's about your daughter Shoshana. I said, what's the problem? He said, the problem is that I've seen her in the classroom at lunch when no other girls are there. She reaches into other girls' knapsacks and she steals their erasers. I looked at her desk. She has a collection there of about 50 erasers with different, cartoon figures and different animals, and they all belong to other girls in the class. I said, Rabbi Kraft, you have a daughter who's a thief. You better do something about it. So Shoshana comes home from school. I say, Shoshana, listen, the teacher called me. You're stealing erasers. What's that all about? Shoshana says, I never stole an eraser in my life. I said, look, your teacher doesn't lie. What's happening? Shana, I don't care anyway. So listen, Shana, you have to appreciate how it hurts when you lose something that's not yours. I'm going to take your American Girl doll away for 2 weeks. 2 weeks you can't play with your American Girl doll. You know what American Girl dolls? 2 weeks you can't play with your American Girl doll. But my American Girl doll, I love my Shana, you have to feel what it means to lose something which you like. Now let me change the story a little bit. Imagine the story goes like this. Stay, this is the best part. This is the best part. It's the best part. Imagine the story changes like this. One day, my daughter Shoshana comes home from school, and she says to me, Abba, I have to talk to you. I said, Shoshana, what's the matter? She says, Abba, let's go in the living room. I said, Shoshana, what's the matter? She says, Abba, we got to sit down on the couch. I said, Shoshana, what is it? She says, Abba, I have a problem. I said, Shoshana, you're 7 years old. It can't be drugs. It can't be, can't be alcohol. What's the problem? She said, Abba, I'm so ashamed to tell you. I said, what is it, Shoshana? What could it possibly be? I'll help you. She says, Abba, I'm a thief. I said, what do you mean you're a thief? She says, Abba, every time I see a little eraser that has a little animal on it or a little color on it, I steal it and I put it in my desk. And I have 50 erasers in my desk at school. And Abba, you have to help me. I'm a thief and I hate myself. So what do I say? I said, Shoshana, listen. It's going to be okay. It's going to be all right. I'm going to help you. I have a plan. I'm going to make a chart and put it on the refrigerator. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday for 2 weeks. Every day you're going to come from school. I'm going to ask you a question. Did you steal an eraser? If you say no, I'm going to put a gold star. She comes home on Monday. Did you steal the eraser? Gold star. Tuesday, did you steal the eraser? No. Gold star. Wednesday, did you steal the eraser? She says, oh, it's so difficult, but I didn't steal it. Gold star. Thursday, gold star. Friday, gold star. Next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, gold stars. At the end of the 2 weeks, I say, Shoshana, you got 2 weeks of gold stars. On Sunday, we're going to Manhattan, and we're going to go to the American Girl doll store, and I'm going to buy you another American Girl doll. Another $150. They're very expensive, these dolls. Usually grandparents buy them. Not. The question, what changed when the teacher called me? How come I have to respond really harshly?
Your daughter wasn't aware.
Because she wasn't aware she had the problem. But when she came to me and said, Abba, when she came to me and said, Abba, when she came to me and she said, Abba, I have a problem, then the fixing up process can be very sweet. Why? Because she's aware she has a problem. And she wants me to help her. And as long as she knows she has a problem, I'll make the repair as sweet as I can make it. You know what God says to us? Get up early and ask to be judged. Because when you're coming to me to be judged, what are you saying to me?
I'm sorry.
You're saying to me that I'm not perfect, Hashem, and I want to repair. And I want you to give me exactly what I need to help me become the person that you created me to be. So Hashem said, when you come to me, it means you're aware that you want to be different. So I can make the judgment so sweet. I thought you had to lose $10,000 to appreciate money. So God says, look, we'll do it for $50. I thought you had to get the swine flu to appreciate health. God says, listen, we'll do it with a few, couple days of a cold. We'll make the repair as sweet as we can. That's what God says. When you ask to be judged, and you realize the purpose of the judgment is to repair yourself, I'll sweeten the judgment as much as I can. And that's why, by the way, the word shofar in Hebrew, the word shofar, if you know a little bit of Hebrew, you'll appreciate this. The word shofar, shin pei resh, is the exact same 3 letters in Hebrew as this word, shipur. What does shipur mean, Mike? Shipur. You know what it means, shipur? To improve. To improve. Improvement in Hebrew is shipur. What we blow on Rosh Hashanah is called the shofar. Shin pei resh, the same 3 letters. Shofar means, I want to improve. That's what it means. We blow a shofar. We ask to be judged. We're blowing it to say to God, I want so badly to have your judgment, because I realize the judgment is giving me everything I need to perfect myself. I want to improve. When God realizes that's our intention, He can make the judgment beautiful and sweet. So my friends, that's what's going on in Rosh Hashanah. God puts it on the first day of the new year to teach us, I don't want to punish you. I want to look at the past. Like a CEO of a company looks at the past year's performance to determine how I can fix it up for the new year. So I put it on the first day of the new year. So you know it's forward-looking. We make a celebration over it. Why? Because we're celebrating the fact that God loves us so much that He wants to help us change. And we rush to hear the shofar because we're asking God to please judge us. And God says, because when I see that you want to change, then I can make I can make the judgment sweet. I can give you an American Girl doll. I don't have to take away American Girl doll. I can make it a sweet, beautiful judgment. And we learn it all from Adam Arishon. The fact he was judged on this day, and the judgment he received was the perfect solution to his problem. We understand that everything God gives us in Rosh Hashanah is going to be the perfect solution to that which we need to help perfect ourselves. And that's the day itself. So what's our job on the day? You know what our job is on the day? On Rosh Hashanah, your job and my job is to stand before God and to think, wherever we are, in the synagogue or not in the synagogue, to say to God, Hashem, I so badly want to change. I so badly want to be close to you. I know that I'm not perfect. And I know you're the King. Give me a sweet judgment as a result. Because I'm aware of who I want to be. Help me get there. When my daughter comes to me and says she has a problem, I'm the first to help her. And I'll help her in the most sweetest possible way. But if the teacher has to tell me that she has a problem, I have to be a little bit more strict. So we have to come before God and tell God, you're the King. Who am I? I so badly want to be close to you. I so badly want to change. Give me the ability, give me the tools, give me the skill. And do it in such a sweet way. And I know you will do it in a sweet way. Because I know the whole day is a day of love. You're judging me, you're looking at me, only because you love me. It's din, it's judgment. But it's judgment that's the result of love. When judging is loving. That's the name of this lecture. When judging is loving. It should be a sweet year for everybody. Thank you so much for listening.